Welcome to the Time to Talk podcast. It is time to talk. November 8th, 3 days after the historic election of Donald J. Trump to be the president-elect, 47th president of the United States. And still, people are in mourning. Most of the people are celebrating, and a whole swath of America right now are still depressed and going through their sadness. My condolences to you. Listen, real quick, one of the reasons why you lost. That's one of the reasons right there why Harris lost. Here's another one right there. Interesting, if you look at that photo and look at the black people in that photo, none of them are smiling or they look offended. Look at the faces, and they actually look offended. I think the white boy in the corner there on the right, I don't know. This brother with the camera down on the left, he's trying to get a shot of her booty. But the rest of them sort of look offended. And I'm sure most of them probably were, right? Let's just keep it real. Welcome to Time to Talk podcast. If you're new here, appreciate you joining me on this journey. And to my subscribers who already watch, I definitely appreciate y'all. Let's get into it. Look, the celebrity thing, the Cardi thing, rolling J-Lo out with the crocodile tears and poor acting performance as usual, par for course for her. Except for when she did Selena, I'll give her that. All right, way back in her career. But it's not black men's fault. It's not Latino men's fault. I'm continuing to see this and continuing to hear this. This is why I have to repeat it, because I may have mentioned it when I did my episode on Trump's win. But you guys have got to start taking responsibility for what took place. I shouldn't say you guys. You're the voting people, all right? It's not your fault. The Democrats, once again, as so eloquently put by Bernie Sanders, once again, as he did back in 2016, failed to reach the working class, failed to reach the poor people, the hard workers, the blue-collar people. They have become a party of working, educated elite, affluent elites. They are controlled by such elite, billionaire technocrats. That's who owns and runs that party, and that's who they're looking out for. I also saw something interesting on MSNBC. I was watching, or was it CNN? It's on CNN. Julie Roginski, was on, and she talked about the fact that the Democrats talk the wrong talk to the wrong people, and their consistent need to pander to every single person's sensibilities and who gets easily triggered and who doesn't, how we should tiptoe around everybody's desire to be either, a tree or a fairy princess, or they want to be a dog for the day, or whatever it is, whatever group, take your pick. The Democrats continually pander to and try to do this woke thing where we recognize everyone and we don't want to offend anyone, so we'd like to make sure. And that is a problem. And I want to go into how this young woman described it, because I think it is I think it's telling. I think it's a good
I speak some hard truths to my friends in the Democratic Party. This is not Joe Biden's fault. It's not Kamala Harris's fault. It's not Barack Obama's fault. It is the fault of the Democratic Party in not knowing how to communicate effectively to voters. We are not the party of common sense, which is what the message that voters sent to us. For a number of reasons, we don't know how to speak to voters. When we address Latino, and language has meaning. When we address Latino voters as Latinx, for instance, because that's the politically correct thing to do. It makes them think that we don't even live on the same planet as they do. When we are too afraid to say that, hey, college kids, if you're trashing a campus at Columbia University because you're unhappy about some sort of policy and you're taking over a university and you're trashing it and preventing other students from learning, that is unacceptable. But we're so worried about alienating one or another cohort in our coalition that we don't know what to say when normal people look at that and say, wait a second, I send my kids to college so they can learn, not so that they can burn buildings and trash lawns, right? And so on and so forth. When we put pronouns after names and say she, her, as opposed to saying, you know what, if I call you by the wrong pronoun, call me out, I'm sorry, I won't do it again. But stop with the virtue signaling and just speak to people like they're normal. There's nothing I'm going to say to Shermichael that I'm not going to say to you, that I'm not going to say to somebody else. I speak the same language to everybody. But that's not what Democrats do. We constantly try to parse out different ways of speaking to different cohorts because our focus groups or our polling shows that so-and-so appeals to such and such. That's not how normal people think. It's not common sense. And we need to start being the party of common sense again. Joe Biden is not responsible for that. Neither is Kamala Harris. It is a problem that Democrats have had for years. I've been banging the drum on this for, I don't know how, probably 10 years, if not longer on this. We need to get back to being the party of common sense, that people look at us and say, we understand you, we appreciate what you say because you speak our language. And until we do that, we should stop blaming other people for our own mistakes.
Could have said it better myself. Couldn't have. That's really what it's about. And if you watch the mainstream media, all they're doing is continuing with their push to figure out who they can blame, and they're blaming the wrong people, in addition to their lies. But we'll get back to that. I saw an interesting take on an AP News yesterday, which went down the road of actually blaming Joe Biden, who also did his speech yesterday. Joe Biden, they rolled him out and he did his thing. Shouldn't say they rolled him out. He walked out. The old man got out in front. You know, they hopped him up on whatever narcotic they need to get in him, and he delivered a speech to the American people. I thought it was a pretty decent speech too, and I thought he got through it okay. So I'll give him that. But AP News decided to go down this article that I saw in AP where the Democrats are blaming Joe Biden, and I thought that was interesting. Let's take a look at that. So Washington. Joe Biden's name wasn't on the ballot, but history will likely remember Kamala Harris' resounding defeat as his loss too. As Democrats pick up the pieces after President-elect Donald Trump's decisive victory, some of the vice president's backers are expressing frustration that Biden's decision to seek re-election until this summer, despite long-standing voter concerns about his age and unease about post-pandemic inflation as well as the U.S.-Mexico border, all but sealed his party's surrender of the White House. The biggest onus of this loss is on President Biden, said Andrew Yang, who ran against Biden in 2020 for the Democratic nomination and endorsed Harris' unsuccessful run. If he had stepped down in January instead of July, we may be in a very different place. Biden will leave office after leading the United States out of the worst pandemic in a century, galvanizing international support for Ukraine after Russia's invasion, and passing a $1 trillion infrastructure bill that will affect communities years to come. Now, yeah, I guess essentially they're now turning on the man, saying, hey, you knew you were cognitively in decline. People around you knew you were cognitively in decline, yet you stuck around before you left. A couple of things to note here. Plenty of people, the people around him who are now blaming him, or people, the Democrats in his own party, who were aware of his cognitive decline and chose to hide it, and chose to continually espouse the notion that he was sharp as a tack. That was the consistent messaging that came from the Democratic Party, fueled and endorsed and pushed, backed up by the mainstream media. You couldn't find a single news, sharp as a tack. And from Harris herself, sharp as a tack, sharp as a tack, sharp as a tack, sharp as a tack. I repeat it over and over again. Sharp as a tack. Sound like Harris now when she thanks everybody. She thanks everyone 20 times when she gets out there. She's got to wind her brain up. Sharp as a tack. Everyone around him. Now, everyone else, myself included, and all of the other people outside of that bubble seem to have known, and it was clear to anyone watching, that he was in cognitive decline. This man was not doing well. And yet, it got spun into the narrative that we're all conspiracy, alternative fringe news sources, Joe Rogan and this one and that one, and we don't know what we're talking about, and he's fine. It's they even called it, I think, deep fake, deep state, claimed that some of the videos were altered to make him look like he wasn't doing so well. Claimed that the audio may have been altered to make him not look like he was so coherent and on point, right? To take away his sharp as a tack image. Turns out we were all right. And what happened was during that debate, the one and only debate with Trump, the world woke up and saw it. You couldn't hide it anymore. And even the mainstream media, immediately after, they started closing that coffin right away. So Don't blame Biden. Don't blame Biden. Blame yourselves for not taking that man to task and getting him out much earlier. I just find it so, it's like, a mother eating her young. It's terrible that they are saying that it's his fault. I mean, some high-ranking Democrats, including 3 advisors to the Harris campaign, expressed deep frustration with Biden for failing to recognize earlier in the election cycle that he was not up to the challenge. Yeah, well, but when you're crazy, you don't know you're crazy. Okay, when you're senile, you don't really admit you're senile. The advisors spoke on the condition of anonymity because they were not authorized to comment publicly. Yeah. But polling long beforehand showed that many Americans worried about his age. Some 77% of Americans said in August 2023 that Biden was too old to be effective for 4 more years, according to a poll by AP NORC, Center for Public Affairs. The president bowed out on July 21st after getting not so subtle nudges from Democratic Party powers, including former President Barack Obama and former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi of California. Biden endorsed Harris and handed over his campaign operation to her. Yang argued that Democratic Party leaders also deserve blame for taking too long to push out Biden. With few exceptions, most notably Minnesota Rep. Dean Phillips, Democrats shield away talking publicly about Biden's age. Again, now maybe Yang was, blowing his bullhorn and telling them to get rid of the old man. But realistically, I blame all of them because I don't believe Yang ever came out and said that publicly. Right? Like, how many Democrats actually publicly made the point, look, he's too old, we're looking for so it's not going to happen. None of them were going to do it. And then I love when they say when he bowed out, he didn't bow out. He was forced out by the likes of Obama, Pelosi, Clinton. They got him out, period. They waited too late. They played a game of poker. They waited too long to fold, and then it was too late by then. And then they threw this woman in. That's what happened. All right? That's what happened. So blaming Democrats when most of America knew that this man was too old, but people were continually being told, no, it's not true. It's not what you think. It's not what you see. See how the news works? Speaking of which, I just can't, I flipped through, obviously, The View. These women, I had to tune in to see what they're saying. They're constantly pushing the negativity and the narrative of doom and gloom. We can't continue to do that. The news has got to stop. They're not going to, even though they are losing terribly. They are losing the ratings. They are losing in their numbers. The election night coverage of how many people watch legacy media versus how many people are online watching alternative news sources, watching PBD podcasts, Patrick Bet-David, Value Entertainment. I watched the election coverage there. I didn't watch CNN. I didn't watch Fox News or ABC. I mean, I flipped here and there, but for the most part, I watched the PBD podcast. And I think they set a record, or they had the most amount of viewership for election night coverage, way over the mainstream media. Mainstream media is losing, and they are holding on for dear life, and they're continuing to do it with lies and pushing negativity and pushing gloom and doom. They're going to need to get over it. I give them another couple of days till next week. And then let's move on to the new Trump presidency, and let's hold him accountable. Let's be objective news. It's not going to happen. I'm saying this as if they're going to somehow wake up and they're going to become this, news source of integrity. They don't apologize for anything. They don't retract stories. They certainly don't admit when they're wrong. And they lie. And it continues. I mentioned this in a previous thing, up until about a week before the election, a couple days before the election. They were continuing with the Liz Cheney that Trump wanted to put her in front of a firing squad. Well, just yesterday, CNN, Jim Acosta, pushed the same exact lie. And it's like, is it going to end? Is there like a time frame? How do these people work? Because if you look at Acosta and you look at Anderson Cooper or Abby Phillips and Laura Coates, I once had a lengthy discussion about Laura Coates and discussing, are these intelligent people? They're relatively intelligent people. I've seen her on Mar several times. I have nothing against her, but she's got no integrity. She's not a real journalist. And the reason I'm saying that is because there's two things happening. They either really believe all the lies that they're telling, Or they know it's all nonsense and they are simply getting their paychecks and doing what they got to do. They are actors going in, doing a role. When they go home and they put their jeans on and kick back with a beer, they know it's nonsense. And I don't know how they live with themselves after that. I just wonder how Rachel Maddow, the amount of money that woman makes, how her life could be happy. Like, how can you be happy? You know you're a miserable liar. Like, you know that. You know your job is being a miserable liar. And it's not miserable liar based on opinion, like, oh, we have a difference of opinion. I have a friend who constantly chalks everything up to a difference in opinion. It's not about a difference of opinion. When there's an outright lie sitting in front of you that even a 5-year-old can look at and go, oh, wait a minute, no, that's not true. And the person continues to push it for their own interest. You're just a miserable liar. You're a POS, 100%, no way around it. And if you're doing that for money, it just makes you a disgusting individual. I don't know how these people on the mainstream media, I do not know how they live their lives. Now, several of them have gotten out and then now they're on the alternative media, independent media bandwagon. Tucker Carlson being most notable after being fired from Fox. And he's doing great and he's doing better than Fox News. The ratings for Rogan blow away CNN, MSNBC, ABC, all these shows. They don't even touch Rogan. They don't touch most of these shows, most of the alternative media. They can't mess with Russell Brand. They can't mess with Glenn Greenwald. So, watching these people, it's like, how long will it take? And a Don Lemon, this horrible, horrible man, a terrible individual. This guy, he bounced, he got fired, and then he tried to go and get independent, but he still wasn't quite independent. He still had the same nasty agenda. You can look at the Elon Musk interview he did, and his ship was sunk. Chris Cuomo's kind of like still in, not quite. He's got like a toe in the water, not really sure. But these people all are taking paychecks and they're living their lives. And I just don't see how they sleep at night because they just continue. And I think that we have to identify what the issues are in order for us to really heal. We cannot just continue to point the finger, especially at each other, right? The black men, the Latinos, these people, those people. We can't do that. We can't hate each other. We can't hate the MAGA Republicans and people who voted for Trump. We can't hate the Harris people who voted for Kamala. We need to identify specifically what is going on. We need to identify what is happening. We have to talk to each other, but we have to wake up. This is the most important part. If there's a large group of people who are slave to the television, to the legacy mainstream media and the lies that are told and the narratives that are pushed. We can go back to the pandemic and the numerous lies, the numerous things that have proven to be direct lies or the wrong information. We can go to Russiagate, an entire fabrication in order to destroy a political candidate. Love him or hate him, it was still a lie. It's a pure lie. If there was an outright direct lie that had come out regarding Kamala Harris, I wasn't voting for her. I'm not a fan of hers. But if there was a direct lie that I could see, I was like, okay, that was a lie. That's wrong. That didn't happen. Then I would say, I'll give you a perfect example. About 2 days, I think a day before the election Eve, suddenly went viral a video of Kamala Harris at some event where she showed up as like a surprise. I think they were, it was like donors or whatever it was. I think it was a lot of college students and such. She showed up and she took a phone from somebody and was on the phone talking. And then she showed the phone when the crowd was clapping. Now, when I first saw that, I saw it was posted and people were like, uh-oh, she's not even on the phone. She's faking a phone call. She can't even do that right. And it went viral. Now, first thing I did was look at that. I watched several takes of it. And I saw what happened and what they were identifying. They were identifying, well, if she was on the phone, you wouldn't see the camera open the way the camera was open. I looked at it a few times and I gave it the benefit of the doubt. I said, look, yeah, you could probably try to analyze this. But I looked at it. She took a phone from somebody that was on FaceTime. She spoke. She didn't speak like this. Sometimes people grab the phone and just put it to their ear, even though they're on FaceTime. She spoke and then she showed the phone. It's not a big deal, right? It's called truth. Don't spread misinformation. Do not spread obvious things that can be disproven. So I went off on a little tangent there, but my point is, we have to be mindful of what information we're getting. And when I say information we're getting, I don't mean my information is right or alternative media is right and they're wrong. I'm saying you need to do your own research and figure things out. You need to look at things and identify things. Certain things are going to be obvious if you take the time to look for them. If you don't, however, and you stay slave to your television, you are going to find yourself in that group of people who fall under some Orwellian, society with the Ministry of Truth dictating to you what is real and what is not real. And you can't make decisions when you don't know all the information and you don't know what's real and you don't know what's not real. They are working very, very, very hard to regulate social media and regulate speech to destroy your First Amendment rights. If that happens and you are not allowed to express yourself or you're not allowed to get real information because they're telling you what's real, how do they determine that? Who gives them the right to determine what's real or what's not real? You need to make sure going forward, if we're going to heal, identify what the issues are. And I'm telling you, my people, it is not your fellow neighbor. It is not the problem. And if you think it's your fellow neighbor, have a conversation. Discuss it. If you know someone is slave to CNN or MSNBC, don't ridicule them per se, but perhaps give them something else to watch, something else to read. I'm a big fan of providing people with books, literature, articles, things that I found, videos, certain podcasts that I listen to that I want to, if I'm talking to a friend about AI and I found something interesting that Mo Goddard did, something, right? I usually share that information, especially with the people who I know could use it. So let's not keep fighting each other. He won. It is right now critically important to support and hope that he does things that are in the interest of all of us and that we don't have to agree with every single thing, but let's hold him accountable. Let's not be fearful of the things that may happen. Let's not sit here and give the guy a hard time or give everyone a hard time, give our neighbors a hard time or be on social media and hating each other. I'm not your friend. You vote, I can't stand you. There's going to be differences of opinions. We got to hold this man accountable. And we got to keep a watchful eye. That much I say. But it's not going to work if we are at each other's throats and finding reasons to hate each other. And that's why Kamala lost. That's not why she lost. All right, that's it. Time to Talk podcast. I appreciate you all. Subscribe to the channel if you've not subscribed yet. We're about 2 months in. I think we're about 2 months in, month and a half or so in. A little under 3,000 followers. We're going to grow to 100,000, 20 million, 5 million, 10 million followers. We'll get there. Stick with me. Like the video on the way out. I truly appreciate that. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Let me know in the comments below what you think about all this and media. And where do you get your media from? Where do you get your news sources from? All right, and I'll see you on the next Time to Talk podcast. Peace.